There is a kind of person who has always been here. They go by different names in different centuries. The cunning woman, the hermit, the witness, the seer, the exile. The world has tried more than once to be rid of them. The world has never managed it. If you carry one of these patterns, you already know. Today we walk into territory most people never find the words for. The Sigma INFJ and the body, not the food, not the weight, not the habits. The ancient pattern beneath all of it. Welcome to Power and Myth. You have probably asked yourself why you cannot seem to get this right, why the relationship with food feels charged in a way that other people do not seem to understand, why your body sometimes feels like something happening to you rather than something you inhabit. But that is not quite the right question. The right question is this: why does a person who reads rooms with uncanny accuracy, who senses what others need before they speak, who carries the emotional weather of everyone around them, why does that same person struggle to feel safe inside their own skin? That is a different question, and it has a different answer. Let us start with what is true. You are not imagining the difficulty. The relationship between Sigma INFJs and their own bodies is genuinely complicated. It is more complicated than it is for most people. And some explanations get some of this right. High sensitivity, sensory processing differences. The way a nervous system tuned to depth picks up more data than others. These are real. They matter. For a person built to absorb information at depth, the physical world can feel overwhelming in ways that are hard to articulate. So the explanation you have probably been given is something like this. You are sensitive, your nervous system is tuned differently. Food becomes a way of regulating that, of managing the overwhelm. That is not wrong, but watch what it misses. It treats the body as a problem to be managed. It treats the relationship with food as a symptom of sensitivity. It assumes the goal is regulation, getting the nervous system back to neutral. And yet the Sigma INFJ, who has spent years trying to regulate, who knows every technique, who understands the theory perfectly, often finds that the relationship does not change in the way the theory promises it will. Why? Because the theory is explaining the wrong thing. Here is the question beneath the question. What is the body to a Sigma INFJ? Not what should it be, not what it is biologically. What does it actually represent in the psyche of someone built the way you are built? Consider this. The Sigma INFJ lives primarily in perception, in pattern recognition, in the interior life where information comes in through intuition and gets processed in layers that most people never reach. That is not a poetic description. It is a functional description of how this type moves through the world. Now, where does the body sit in relation to that? For most people, the body is the self, the physical experience of hunger, tiredness, pleasure, and pain. These are the primary signals. The body tells them what is true, but the Sigma INFJ is built to receive information from sources the body cannot name. Emotional information, pattern information, what is unspoken in a room, what is coming before it arrives. The body, for the Sigma INFJ, is not the primary instrument of perception. It is one instrument among many, and it is often the one that gets overridden. Ask yourself this: how many times have you ignored hunger because the conversation needed you present? How many times have you eaten not because you were hungry, but because the emotional charge in a room needed somewhere to go? How many times has the body become the place where everything lands because it was the only thing that felt concrete? The surface explanation says you are using food to regulate your nervous system. But what if the body is not a regulator? What if it is a receiver? What if the complicated relationship with food is not about sensitivity at all? What if it is about the cost of being built to carry what others leave behind? And there is something Jung identified that matters here. He called it psychic inflation. The condition in which the psychic life expands at the expense of the instinctual life. When someone is living so completely in the realm of perception, of feeling, of vision, that the body becomes a container for everything the conscious mind cannot process. Not a home, a container. And here is what that produces. The body starts to speak in the only language available to it. Appetite becomes erratic. The signals get confused, not because the body is broken, because it has been asked to carry something it was never designed to carry alone. The question is not why you have a complicated relationship with your body. The question is, what has your body been asked to hold? This is the seer's wound. The seer archetype is the pattern that maps most precisely onto what is happening here, and the seer, more than any other archetype in the Sigma INFJ framework, lives in the territory between the seen and the unseen. The seer perceives, deeply, constantly, without choosing to. This is the gift. It is also the burden that lands in the body. Here is what Jung understood that the sensitivity model does not fully capture. Every archetype has what he called an inferior function, the place in the psyche that is least developed, least integrated, and most prone to being overwhelmed. For the intuitive type, for the person whose primary instrument is perception rather than sensation, the inferior function is the body itself, the physical world. The concrete, sensory, here and now reality of having a body that needs things. This is not a flaw, it is structural. The seer is built to see what others cannot. That same architecture means the body's signals are processed differently, not less, differently. They arrive with lower priority than emotional, relational, and pattern data. The hunger signal competes with 5 other streams of incoming information, and it frequently loses. So the relationship with food becomes complicated. Not because there is something wrong with you, because your perception instrument is calibrated for a different kind of knowing. And when the body is not inhabited, it does not go quiet, it gets louder or stranger. It starts to speak in ways that feel disconnected from any obvious cause, cravings that arrive with emotional charge, the absence of hunger in situations that should produce it, eating that feels like trying to become solid in a world that keeps making you transparent. The shadow of this pattern is worth naming. When the seer does not know this about themselves, the body becomes a battleground. The attempt to control the physical becomes a proxy for the deeper need, to feel grounded in a reality that the seer perceives so intensely it can become destabilizing. Control is not the answer, it is the symptom. The answer is integration. Returning to the body not as a container to be managed, but as an instrument of a different kind of knowing. Sensation as a form of perception. Physical presence as an anchor for the psychic depth that would otherwise have nowhere to root. The Sigma INFJ who learns to inhabit the body does not cease to be a seer. They become a seer with ground beneath them. That changes everything. Knowing this does not fix it overnight. But knowing this changes the relationship to the experience. You are not broken. You are not failing at something other people find easy. You are experiencing the structural cost of being built to perceive at depth. The seer who understands the inferior function does not fight it. She tends it, with patience, with the same quality of attention she gives to everything else she witnesses. The body is not the problem. The body is the invitation back to yourself. If this has landed somewhere it needed to land, then you may already know what comes next. There are 7 Sigma INFJ archetypes, and each one carries a different gift, a different burden, a different mythic responsibility. The link in the description will take you to a free assessment that reveals yours. It takes about 3 minutes. The answer tends to land harder than people expect. And if you want to keep walking these threads with me, into the deeper psychology of the Sigma INFJ, into the archetypes the world has forgotten how to name, subscribe. There are far older and stranger things still to uncover. Until next time. Find your power, know your myth,